Hi, my name is Lucy Ferguson, and I'm giving my presentation on music in ancient Greece. So, music and the arts were a big part of ancient Greek culture, and the culture was the beginning of what we know as Western civilization. They um, were instrumental in many of the ideas and practices in politics and arts and literature that we practice today. And in addition to cultivating their own religion and politics, they put on their own entertainment, or they came up with their own forms of entertainment. The Greek word "mosika" was used to encompass music, dance, and poetry, and the practice of mosika was believed to be overseen by the Muses, the mythological goddesses of the arts. If you've ever seen Hercules, um, they're big characters in that movie. Um, and they just encompass all of the arts, just means, like I said here, music, dance, poetry, theater, everything. And Greek people were very wrapped up in that, um, in addition to all of the seriousness of life. In addition to being purely entertaining, music and the arts were used to reflect society and its values and were didactic, meaning they were used to teach. There were lessons, and in many much of entertainment that we have today is also didactic in its methods, whether that's apparent or not. Greek philosophers saw a connection between music and mathematics, seeing it as the bridge between the cosmos and the human soul. So we're going to go through a couple instruments, common instruments they had in ancient Greek times. The first is the lyre, or in Greek here the word is lyra. According to Greek myth, the lyre was invented by the god Hermes by attaching two wooden arms to a tortoise shell, connecting the arms by a crossbar at the top, and then stretching a piece of sheep hide across the front of the shell. This kind of lyre was called a chelis, or in ancient Greek, it was pronounced helis, lyre, meaning tortoise shell. It would typically have 4 to 6 strings made of sheep sinew and was more often played by strumming rather than plucking. Sometimes people would alternate between plucking and strumming to create a unique sound. This was done with the right hand while the other hand dampened the strings, much like they do in with many string instruments we have today. The next instrument is called the kithara. This instrument was mainly played by professionals. It was a little bit more heavy duty or a little bit more difficult to play than the lyre was. It is an instrument of the lyre family, had 7 strings and a wooden box-shaped body with 2 hollow arms on either side called resonators. The musician typically stood while playing and used a pick or a plectron in his right hand across the strings, while his other hand dampened the strings on the back side of the instrument. It was usually only played by professionals, and these professionals were called kitharodes. And fun fact, there's a possibility the word guitar originated from kithara. The next instrument is called the aulos. Though the word aulos is typically translated as flute, it functions similarly to an oboe with its double reed. And it has a kind of an ethereal sound because it has 2 different reeds, or 2 different pipes where the sound comes out of. It was made from 2 pieces of wood that formed hollow pipes. Each pipe was fitted with 1 or 2 bulbous mouthpieces. 5 to 7 finger holes were carved into each pipe. And I think this instrument was actually, the pipes weren't connected. Sometimes they were, but sometimes they weren't. It was just you have the 2 pipes and you just put them in your mouth at the same time and blow. I looked up a couple YouTube videos of people that were playing their makeshift aulos. So, music in Greek life. Music was used to accompany a variety of settings. Many you wouldn't expect would need a music backdrop. But basically, all parts of life, music was involved in it. Much like we have today, though I think some of these settings were not as we probably wouldn't have somebody in the corner playing an instrument to accompany. But some of these settings were the theater, deific worship, funerals, on warships. A lot of times they would have drums or somebody playing another instrument just to keep the time of the rowing. Um, Battlefields, I mean, if you think of the Revolutionary War and other wars, you had like a pipe player and the drummers just to kind of give morale to the troops, I guess. I think it also had to do with keeping time like it was on the warships. Sporting events, gladiatorial events, all of the Olympic kind of style events, private parties, schools, and really any other sort of public gathering, they'd have music. Most Greek men learned to play an instrument as well as how to sing and dance. From the sources I looked up, that it didn't really mention much about Greek women, though in a lot of the pottery and art recovered from this time, there are a lot of women playing, as shown in this picture of the woman playing this aulos. That it didn't really mention that most women knew how to play, but there were quite a few women depicted playing instruments. Shepherds piped to their flocks, oarsmen and infantry kept time to music, as I was talking about, and women made music in the home. So really, music was a big part of Greek life, and I think their attitude toward music is a lot of where we get our love of music. They were very new. Music was used in leisure time, but also in work time, and I personally do have the same kind of musical ethic in my life. So, if you have any questions, this was a very interesting study. I know we only talked about three of the instruments. These were the most common. There were other instruments that they used, but these three were, like I said, probably the most common. And yeah, thank you for coming to my presentation.